Hi, I'm Bran, and I love Hallmark Christmas movies.
I'm Brian, and I like Hallmark Christmas movies.
I'm Dan, and I despise Hallmark Christmas movies.
I'm Kristoffer, Polaha, and I'm here to celebrate 5 years of these gentlemen talking about Hallmark Christmas movies.
And I am Lindy Booth, and I am here because Kristoffer Polaha made me come.
And this is the Deck the Hallmark podcast.
Deck the Hallmark, it's his podcast. Brandon and friends host his podcast. We hope you like this jolly podcast.
Well. Wow.
Boy.
What an exciting day today is. The first Friday of Christmas in July, and every Friday this month, we're doing a movie we've already covered before that we covered in year one of our show to see how things have changed.
We're living the dream,
We
Bran.
are.
We're rewatching Hallmark Christmas movies for new content.
That's exactly right.
Is what we're doing.
That's
here.
exactly right. But it's going to be newer. It's going to be fresher. It's going to be better than ever because not only is Chris Polaha here, Lindy Booth is here. Lindy, welcome to the
Gotta say
show.
Lindy Booth.
This
Yay.
is exciting. This is exciting.
Thank you guys so much for having me. Happy 5-year anniversary.
Thank you very
Oh,
much.
Thank you so much.
Very excited.
It felt right to start with this movie, seeing as how it was the first movie that we covered 5 years ago. I think it was June 30th, 2018.
18, that's right.
And then Chris joined us like a
-5,
week later as our first interview. And now he's back again. He's joined us so many times over the years. And to come back now, it means a lot. So, Chris, thank you so much for coming back so many times over the years. It means the world.
Of course. It's nice to have a place to come to.
Now, Rocky Mountain Christmas is a big movie. In fact, it's still the highest rated Hallmark movies and mysteries movie
Of all
time, which is very exciting. It was true then, it's true now.
2.18 million viewers, and I saw it, and I was like, "That's for HMM. That number is massive, and it hasn't been topped since then." And all the big stars have done, all the big Hall stars have done movies on that network, and they can't top that number. Did you guys know that? Did you know it was still number one?
I did.
Yeah, you did.
Check every day. Refresh.
Chris checks the numbers.
No, they keep
Lindy-
calling me. The network keeps calling and they say you still get the title. I'm like, great, good. Lindy and I are reigning king and queen of the what is it? The Hallmark's movies and mysteries Christmas.
Yeah. That's right.
That's right.
Real quick.
You know, it was the last time I did a film for that. From then on, it was always Hallmark Channel.
Aside from your mystery series, Mystery 101,
sorry.
I don't know if you,
I don't know.
I don't know if you remember that.
Those, Chris.
There's but real quick. There's some scuttlebutt out there about mysteries and you, and if there's a future there, and I'll just throw it out there and kind of see. Like, give me like 2 winks. Give something. Maybe there's more. Maybe there's something. Yeah.
Are we talking? Mystery 101 is.
Right? Mystery 101's done, but maybe another mystery series starring the Polaha.
There might be something. There might be something cooking.
Wow, that was a good one. That was good. Yeah. We're gonna get a lot of buzz off of that, Chris. Though, and Lindy Booth, when are we gonna get more of you on the Hallmark Channel? Is it coming? Can you give us a nod, a wink, a double wink?
Something as good as Chris just did?
Wow.
Oh, there it is.
We'll
That's
see.
Oh, if you're watching on Philo TV, you got more than if you were just listening.
Yeah.
She all but confirmed it.
Yes.
If you're watching. Yes.
It's very
of course.
exciting. Very exciting. Let's talk about Rocky Mountain Christmas. It also felt right to do this one first because Treat Williams just passed not too long ago. And rewatching this movie and seeing him, it hit different. I do want to throw it to each of you just to share what it was like filming with such a legend in Treat Williams, and if you have any stories that you want to share about what that was like.
Yeah, Lindy, do you wanna take it?
Sure. Yeah. Look, Treat is a legend, right? And like even then, before his passing, was an absolute legend and a dream of a person to work with. And we had all these beautiful scenes together, and he made acting so easy. He breathed and acted. It was a beautiful, natural way that he had about him. And he is that kind and that generous as that character in that movie. I think what people don't know is that he is also hilarious. He is one of the funniest people I have ever worked with. He made me laugh. His sense of humor was so dirty and so wrong. And it was just a joy to try to keep a straight face around him. So as sad as the news of his passing was, it made me laugh that day, thinking about all of the laughs that I had with him and all of the times he just made me cringe and laugh and just fall deeper in love with him. I was a true fan before, and meeting him and working with him really just confirmed that.
I love that. Thank you, Kristo.
Yeah, I mean, I would just second everything she said. He had a wickedly funny sense of humor. And then here's a guy that has a story about driving in Cuba with Kristoffer Walken and Robert De Niro and getting a flat tire and being the only guy, because he's from New York City, or because he's not from New York City, who knew how to fix a flat tire. And as he's telling the story, he's impersonating Robert De Niro and Kristoffer Walken. And so you've got this guy who, and it's funny, the day he died, it was interesting on social media to see how many people were posting people that had worked with him. And he really did cross-pollinate with just so many different people and was evergreen. I mean, he worked with Chris Pratt. He worked with, like there's all these generations of young actors who can say they had a chance to work with Treat Williams. Loved his family, loved flying. Yeah, it was sad. It's sad. It was sad to watch the movie, knowing that he's not with us anymore, because you know, he's got some 20-year-old kids at home. He's got a daughter and a son and a wife. And I think that we had some great conversations on that set, and I knew what his game plan was. And it was to kind of round out his, the next couple of years with some work and just enjoy his life. So, it's bittersweet. And I'm glad that, selfishly, I'm very glad that I got a chance to make a movie with the guy, and that Lindy and I have we have some very funny stories. And, Lindy, we made that movie in the white hot heat of the Me Too movement. And I remember making a joke with you that was like caught on camera, like B-roll. And I was like, there goes my career. there goes my camera.
There goes his camera.
Are you okay?
Just like that.
And he's been
What did I do? Something just happened, guys.
Did you throw a sheet
Did
over
you
the camera?
throw something over your camera?
Because it looks like it's...
No, it literally just switched around. Hold on, guys. Let's fix this out.
It was really good timing.
It was
That was great
unbelievable.
timing.
It was really good timing.
It really was.
Yeah. Brought to you by Skype.
He self-canceled.
He did. He brought it up himself.
Yeah. And he felt bad, and he was like, I gotta
get out of here.
I gotta duck out for sure.
Scram.
Lindy, do you like this Christmas tree we have here?
You know what? I do love Christmas a lot. That's part of the reason why I love doing these movies so much. And I have had my eye on that tree.
Right?
You can't have this
since
one.
you guys got on. Yeah.
Now, let me ask you this. In acting in your fair share of Hallmark Christmas movies, have you ever gotten to act with a Balsam Hill Christmas tree before?
Honestly, I don't know the answer to that question. But seeing the beauty of that one, I'm not sure I ever have.
Yeah, and listen, Balsam Hill only does it one way: quality.
That's exactly right.
That's the only way they know how to do it.
Well, let me tell you this, Lindy, because you have had your eye on it for a while. They do have a Christmas and July sale going on right now.
Up to 50% off everything.
And then if you use the promo code podcast, you're going to get an extra 5% off.
It's unbelievable.
Up to 55?
Basically giving it away, and that's pretty exciting. And this whole set, it just feels like we're in a Hallmark Christmas movie, which I...
Hey, are we talking about Balsam Hill, guys?
We are.
I got my camera fixed up.
We are.
Are we good?
Yeah, we're good,
We
Chris.
are good.
Because I saw Lindy's face light up, and I was like, they must be talking about Balsam
Yeah.
Hill.
About the tree.
Yeah.
We are.
The tree.
Absolutely.
Stunning.
Handmade ornaments? You kidding me?
Shall we talk about Rocky Mountain Christmas?
Those shiny red balls on your table.
Yeah.
Yes.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. We call them big ornaments around here.
Yeah. Want to see there's hooks there? They're not just
there are
balls.
hooks there. They're not just balls.
That's right.
They're not just balls. Rocky Mountain Christmas and I just want to put this out there. Could I have recycled my synopsis from 5 years ago? Yes, because I don't delete anything.
I deleted all my notes.
But
I couldn't
I'm not.
find them.
I wrote a whole new synopsis,
Yeah, you did.
Through the lens in which I watched it this time. So this is all fresh material here. Rocky Mountain
Wait a
Christmas.
minute, and the first time we did this, we watched the movie separately.
That's true.
Because we had other jobs and
That's
stuff
true.
going on. And this time, you and I sat down together.
We held hands.
And we watched Rocky Mountain Christmas,
exactly
and that
right.
was a lot of fun.
The way God intended.
And did Lindy and Chris, did you guys watch? Give it another go? Did you guys both watch it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did.
Oh,
fantastic. Have you both watched it before, or was this a first time viewing? Do you watch yourself? Is that weird?
I watched it the first time because I think that the first time we did it was very much in the live tweet segment
Right.
of life. Like I think that I live tweeted it probably for Hallmark.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I watched it too live. Yeah. And yeah. I liked it. I thought it was fun. I enjoyed. I gave Lindy and I gave each other gifts post filming. And do you have your award still?
I do, but it's in storage right now. I don't have it. I
It's
wish
in
I could.
storage,
I
I
thought
love it.
that this morning. I was like, God, I wish I could pull that out.
Yeah. I went and had a trophy made for best leading lady ever because we had
Wow.
No. What was it? What was it?
For me for best EPK answer on a Hallmark movie?
Oh, that's right. Well, it felt like you were the best leading lady ever. What was your EPK answer?
What's EPK? What is that?
EPK is they make us do these like interviews while we're doing the movie, and it's always on the most inconvenient day to do them.
Right, it's like when
And
you're jammed
someone
up.
who has not seen the movie comes in and asks you not great questions about the movie.
And this is for like promotional use leading up to the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's for promotional stuff, but I also think it's just like to try to sell commercial. It's more like a commercial sort of thing, right?
Oh, okay.
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I've honestly, when like one of them, they were doing one, I was like, where do these play? Like, I don't see them. And she pulled up a website and they're out there.
They
but
exist somewhere.
They're supposed to exist online, or they're supposed to exist like on air, or like during other films, like an EPK should come. And
Yeah.
it's intended to get people excited, to whet
An
the appetite.
electronic press kit.
What was the answer?
That's
What was the
yeah,
answer?
that's
So
it.
great.
You know, it wasn't that it was a great answer. It was that Chris and I had decided we wanted to do it together, where usually they make you do them separately. And they had asked us to pick from a list of 20 the questions that we wanted to ask each other, and then ask each other them in like as a surprise what the questions were. However, we chose the 3 exact same questions in the exact same order.
That's great.
And every question Chris gave, because I got to ask first, every answer he gave was so beautiful. And you guys know him. He like has these like this amazing family and all this beautiful like stories around Christmas. And it was all so, and I was just like, oh God, I did not have the answer to anything. So I did not actually give a great answer, but for some reason, the last answer I gave tickled the funny bone and hit the feels of the woman giving the interview, who, when it was over, said, that is the single greatest answer I have ever heard to a Hallmark interview ever.
Wow.
And I was
That's
like,
right.
it wasn't that good. She just loved it.
Wow.
Fantastic.
That's
I-
right.
It was about a
Your
cat. My
memory is
cat knocked
so
down a
good.
tree. My mom saved Christmas.
I want to know, is this on their on the website? I wonder.
Yeah, we
Because we got to
figure
try to
this out.
find it
We
and
gotta
see
find
what's so
this.
good about this answer. That's what I want to know.
EKP.
Your memory is so good. You had all the details, man.
You didn't even remember the award you gave her, Chris.
No, I was like, yeah, I just gave her an award show. I remember going and making the award. I had it made. I handmade the award.
I like that you think it was for best leading lady. I'll take it.
Well, now it makes sense why it's in storage.
It's the thought that counts, and he thought it was for best leading lady.
That's exactly right.
That's what he thought.
That's exactly right.
And I got a Never-Ending Story, the vinyl edition,
Ooh.
a record of the Never-Ending Story
That is
soundtrack,
fun.
Man,
which has really cool cover art. So it stayed in my desk. It too is in storage, but because
man, I
it's
feel like
moved,
these
so-
guys were both lying, and they both threw away their gifts.
It's in permanent storage.
It's in storage.
Turnabout.
Yeah. All right,
You should
Rocky
tell
Mountain
my
Christmas.
kids that. It's
yeah,
in
It's in
storage.
storage. Everything's in storage. Yeah, when we're getting rid of some toys, it's like, yeah, we'll see 'em.
It's a
It's
storage.
in
storage.
Landfill.
Rocky Mountain Christmas originally aired on Hallmark Movies and Mysteries on December 22nd, 2017, and it went a little something like this. Sarah works at a hotel and it makes her boss very happy with how Christmassy the lobby is. Maybe some balsam hill trees. I don't know. She's fresh off a bad breakup with a tech titan. And the paparazzi, they're following her all around, taking pictures of her through windows and whatnot. And she just can't handle it anymore. So she decides that she's going to go home to the family ranch for the holidays. She is greeted by an absolute baby of a Chris McNally. He's a newborn. He's a little child. He doesn't have a beard or anything. And she is immediately greeted with bad news. Not only does Chris McNally not have a beard, there's going to be no town Christmas tree and potentially no Christmas parade either. Sarah will not stand for this. Uncle Roy shows up, and we're all better for it. He seems to be doing well, despite the fact that this is going to be the first Christmas without his wife, who we call Aunt Beth. We love her. We love her. But he's the one who's like, there's going to be no tree lighting. So how well is he really doing, huh? That's what I want to know. A hunky hunk named Graham is driving towards the ranch. He wants to find a ranch that he can stay at for a while so that he can learn about ranch life for a movie that he's getting ready to film. He immediately starts getting into trouble, honking horns, scaring horses, trying to give horses cookies, actor stuff. Sarah shows up and is like, hey, stop that weirdo. Don't give my horse a cookie. She does agree, though, to let him stay at the ranch and learn the ropes. Yeehaw. Uncle Roy is delighted when his friend Delilah shows up with cupcakes, and who's not? Sarah shows up, shows Graham all the important stuff about ranch life, like how to ride a horse, how to make wreaths. Those things. They do ranch life stuff. They spend a ton of time together walking around, promoting the parade, ranch stuff. They even cut down a Christmas tree for inside the house, something Uncle Roy said, I do not want. They did it anyway. His co-star Nicole shows up just as Sarah and Graham are laying down in the snow. And they're rumored to be dating, but Graham tells Sarah, hey, nothing to worry about here. That's just, publicity stuff. And now the newborn Chris McNally is there putting the moves on Nicole. It's going to be all smooth sailing, I'm sure. Sarah goes to do a radio interview, and when Graham hears how bad it's going, he runs in to save the day like a guy. And he says, hey, guess what, everybody? The float I'm going to be on is going to be popping. You're not going to want to miss this float.
It's also the only one.
They don't have a float. So the crew works together to put together a great float. But then Graham gets bad news. He and Nicole have to leave ASAP for filming stuff. Even though it's to Christmas time, there's nothing they can do about it. Sarah is very sad when she finds out that he's going to leave, and so she goes to sit next to Uncle Roy, who gives an amazing speech that I think when you watch it, if you don't tear up, you're a monster. Treat Williams' national treasure. Then he gives Graham a speech. It's just too much. The family decides that they're going to do the tree lighting ceremony after Uncle Roy says, let's do it, and they have to bust it to get it ready in time. Graham decides to blow off the $50 million movie so he can help set up for the Christmas tree lighting, and he can't miss the parade. It's going to be the biggest ever. The rain comes, but doesn't stop the parade from happening. Graham shows up in a bolo tie, and it's awesome. Then the town heads over for the tree lighting, and Sarah tells Uncle Roy that she wants to take over the ranch instead of having him sell it. Then Graham says, hey, I got to show you something, Sarah. Takes her over, and apparently he has put lights on all the trees. He lights them up. He tells her that he wants to kind of help out with the ranch, maybe make this his home base. And they kiss big ones. And that, my friends, was Rocky Mountain Christmas.
We did it.
We did do it. That's exactly right. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back. We're going to break this movie down with 4 segments here on Deck the Hallmark.
Deck the Hallmark.
Great job, guys. 5 years.
5 years.
It shows.
Welcome back. We're talking about Rocky Mountain Christmas. Chris Polaha is here. Lindy Booth is here. And very excited to break this movie down again. I did bring notes in our book, I'll Be Home for Christmas movies.
Available wherever you buy books.
Here's what we thought of the movie in blurb form.
Okay.
5 years ago. Dan said, so bad in so many ways. Hated it.
Dan.
Panda, who's not here today, said really liked, kind of caught off guard that there were no villains.
Yeah.
That was his first Hallmark movie. It was new to him. And apparently I said just okay, which doesn't sound like me at all. I think I was trying to be like a real film critic or something.
Just okay.
I said just okay. Get ready, guys. It's going to be better this time around. Let's give our hot takes, share exactly how I felt about this movie. I do want to start with you, Brian, because this is an interesting one where you weren't here 5 years ago.
No.
So this is your first time watching this movie. You have you've never seen it before. Yeah. You've seen a lot since.
Yeah.
What did you think of Rocky Mountain Christmas?
I am more in the Panda camp than I even expected. I really liked it. I had a really good time watching this movie. The cast was top notch. I was watching it, I'm like, this, I don't think we knew it at the time back then. It was sort of ahead of its time, I feel like.
What?
The cast was so good.
What do you mean?
How is it ahead of its time?
Just such
It's
hard
not like
hitters.
Kristoffer Nolan filming an IMAX
No,
for
it
the
was a
first
cool
time.
idea.
It's just
the
a
actor going
range
to the
Christmas
ranch.
movie.
Yeah, but I mean, I think there's a reason it's still the top-rated movie on the Movies and Mysteries Network. It's got Polaha, we got Lindy Booth,
Right.
Treat, McNally, just all these heavy hitters together. So young, like you mentioned, Brand.
Yeah, baby.
I don't know, it worked for me. I had a really good time. I laughed out loud a few times. Chris, your timing phenomenal. Lindy was like so sincere. The relation, it just worked for me. And obviously, it goes without saying, I wanted more ranching. I mean,
Sure.
I would love to have seen some plowing the earth.
Some actual ranching,
Yeah,
you mean?
just baling some hay, just anything, anything. There was some interaction with the horses and, almost knocking people off the horses, that's fun too. But I had a really good time. I had a good time with this movie. I really liked it.
Chris Polaha, what do you think about this movie?
Listen, I love this movie. I love filming this movie. It was early on in my Hallmark, it's like Picasso's blue period, my Hallmark period of just doing these, these little movies. And I think Lindy and I, when we wanted to make something that felt special, that felt ahead of its time. And I think if you look at where Hallmark is as a channel now, we had an almost interracial relationship between the woman and the neighbor. I love the line when Lindy hugs her friend and she's like, if we hug a little too long, people are going to get the wrong idea. I mean, you've got all these sort of things where the network was heading, but you weren't allowed to do anything. And so we were kind of pushing against it. And, I think Lindy and I, we made the decision early on, let's treat it like it's anything, like it's any film that we'd make. We've both done network stuff and on in bigger networks, and what's interesting about talking about something 5 years after the fact, Hallmark at that time was relatively untouchable for a lot of actors. There were a lot of people who wouldn't want to go do Hallmark movies, and in those 5 years, it's become the real estate to get on as an actor. I mean, I got friends across the board who were like, man, I would do anything to be in a Hallmark movie. So it's interesting to see how much the network has changed in 5 years and how this little movie did plant a seed, I think, which took root. The idea of bringing some of their heavy hitters in one film and it was fun.
Lindy Booth, what did you think about it?
Yeah, I watched it again this morning and I looked back and I was like, I'm pretty proud of that. I think we did good. And yeah, like exactly what Chris said, it's hard to separate how much fun we had making it because we really did just like laugh the entire time. Like it was they happened so quickly, and this one felt like it happened in an absurd little bubble because we were in these weird like mountain sort of locales. And we had a great time, but I do think we had a conversation like the first night we got to Vancouver, and we were like, let's just make a good movie. Let's just be good, shall we? And it helped. It set the tone for like let's not just like slide on this. Let's actually put the work in, and we did.
Let me ask you this, Lindy, because in our book as well, we have a blurb here from Chris. We have a blurb here from Chris Polaha that tells the story of making this movie, and I want to know if this is how it actually happened, because Chris. I got a call the day after Thanksgiving, and I'm not even kidding you. I was on a plane maybe 3 or 4 days later, so that means we didn't start shooting until December. We were done on December 12th, and then it aired on December 22nd. Is that what really happened?
Yeah, I seem to remember us starting shooting before Thanksgiving, but being done December, like it was, they had 2 weeks to.
That's so wild.
Post it,
the turnaround time there is
that turnaround time is insane.
Yeah.
It's absolutely insane. Yeah.
That's crazy.
That's not normal.
Yeah, unfortunately, I am prone to hyperbole. When I have pictures. I was going to show you some pictures. We filmed it in November.
Yeah.
Before Thanksgiving.
Okay. But I think we wrapped just after Thanksgiving. Yeah.
Yeah, and we wrapped. Yeah, I mean, I have photographs. So November 7th through. Let me see. Hold on. Chaka Chaka.
Chaka Chaka.
All right.
Right. Chaka Chaka.
Let's get here. So November 4th through.
It's good stuff here.
Sorry, guys. November 4th.
I feel like you should
through November 20th.
Props.
So I think it was those 3 weeks in November. We started. If we started November 4th, that would have been a couple days before shooting, and then it would have been those 3 weeks up to Thanksgiving.
Wow.
I think I had my Thanksgiving marker. I put it after, but you're right. There's no way that we would have shot it in 12 days.
Yeah.
So it happened the month before.
Still crazy.
The idea that you would hit action November 7th and it would air on television December 22nd is crazy town.
Yeah.
Yeah. And one of the things I do remember this, and this is not hyperbole, is that they said that they had a movie that they were going to put in our slot and it wasn't testing well. And so in the last minute, they filmed this movie to plug it into a spot that they had a movie that got botched. So we replaced a film that had already been made and put in the can. And it just, Randy Pope was like, no, I am not going to air that. Make a new movie. And so we got the 11th hour, the 11th month. And here's that bolo tie you were talking about.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
Look at that for the free. Look at that.
You look like
guy.
a villain in a kid's Western.
See, there is a villain in this
That's
movie.
exactly right.
Graham.
That's exactly right. That's beautiful. That's beautiful stuff.
Actor Graham.
I love that. So I love this movie. Way
was
more
just
than just
okay.
okay. I don't know, like I can tell
Graham.
you exactly what happened. I'm gonna go into this podcast. This is my idea. I gotta try to play it straight, not go too heavy, not go too hard. But 5 years in, screw that. This movie is a treasure. I watch this movie every time I see it on TV. I've seen this movie at least 2 handfuls of times. And sometimes with the volume up, sometimes with the volume down, sometimes in Spanish. So I love this movie. I think it's an absolute blast. It makes me just feel so good inside. I always forget Chris McNally's in this movie because he just doesn't look like that anymore. He's got the beard. He's doing the Winkles the Heart thing. And so it's always a surprise. I love this movie. It's just fantastic. Dan, bring the room down.
Listen, guys, the last time we did this movie, it was the first one of these I'd ever seen. And I did call it a dog turd.
You did.
I did. And I'm glad we got to watch it again because
Oh no.
it's still a dog turd. I will say this. Since we've got the actors on the line, what I have in that book there is incorrect. I hate it in so many different ways is incorrect. What I've come to realize about these movies and what I've learned about myself and these films over the last 5 years plus is that these movies live and die based upon the chemistry of the actors in the film. This is a wreath-making ranch, people, with no guests, okay? There's a lot of holes in this plot. It's not Lindy and Treat and Chris's job to fix those plot holes. It's their job to come and bring whatever heat they got. That's what their job is. And looking back, getting to watch this again, the thing that I will say is that the chemistry between the two of you is fantastic. And that carries this movie well past the myriad plot issues. I mean, we have a parade that's not even a block long. There's plenty here to unpack that is doesn't pass muster, doesn't hold water, whatever you want to say. But you do have, Brian, you're not wrong. You are wrong about it being ahead of its time. I don't know what you're talking about, but you're not wrong about the cast. You two, it's as good a chemistry as I've seen on the network. Fantastic. Treat Williams, I said it the first time we did this podcast, national treasure. I said that in 2018. I stand by that line right now. Every time he gets to sit down and give a little monologue about family or about life, it's unbelievable. So there's stuff to enjoy here. I think the thing that's impressive to me that wasn't impressive to me 5 years ago is that knowing how these movies are made, knowing how much time is put into them, and knowing what it takes to be an actor in these movies, I didn't appreciate what you guys were doing, which you two and Treat Williams were firemen carrying this thing across the finish line. And you were put in a tough spot to pinch hit, and you did it incredibly successfully. So that I'm happy I watched this movie again for that reason. Are there bigger issues than I had with it the first time? Yeah, probably from a plot standpoint. But what you guys are doing, and Lindy, you alluded to it. You didn't say it outright, but you alluded to it. You guys didn't have to do this. You were called in November to make a movie for December. You didn't have to do this. You didn't have to show up and really try your hardest. You were called to put something together, to slap something down that's better than what they had. And you know what? Instead, you guys had sparks, man. You did. And so that side of it, I thought really stood out to me, and I didn't appreciate that enough. So I am happy I watched it again for that reason. So the room didn't totally
update the book. Let's update the book. I like that. I'll take that. Let's get to all the feels before we talk about what the movie gave us. Those feels, Christmas feels, romantic feels, whatever it might be. Brian, first time through, what you got?
Yeah, so my first feels is actually the same thing that you mentioned the first time you reviewed the movie. Reviewed it, and then you reviewed it. And it was that last scene when Chris lit the trees and the house, not just the big tree, but all the lights that he had decorated. That was the feels. But also, I couldn't just take one that was already given. So my 1A was, there were a few eggnog mentions, and it just got me thinking, like, man, I can't wait to start having eggnog again.
Right?
Yeah. I cannot wait for a nice
cold eggnog. Is there anything better than holiday drinks?
Oh. I'm sure there's things better.
No, there's nothing better. Okay. Stop it. No. Chris, what gave you feels while you were watching this?
I mean, not to get sentimental about Treat again, but like just watching Treat, like that first scene when you guys are talking, and he's like, I don't want to do anything. And, like the bus ticket where he's like, I got the bus ticket. And he pulls the bus ticket out. It's that every time it hits home. All the feels.
Lindy.
Yeah, I mean, put Treat on a bench, and I'm like,
that's right.
Like that bench was perfect, except for when it wasn't, because I don't know if Chris remembers this, but that bench was actually positioned over a beautiful field. There was a helicopter school behind us that was landing helicopters.
What? A helicopter
The
school?
lesson of the day that because Treat and I shot all those scenes in like one afternoon.
Right.
And there was a helicopter school behind that ranch. And they were doing a takeoff and landing lesson that day. So those helicopters did nothing but take off and land right in front of us.
Oh my gosh.
All day.
Wow.
And we both ADR'd the entire thing.
That's
wow.
That's impressive.
Crazy. Hey, did you notice the bench is also crooked? Like I was watching it, and it's like in the frame. I'm like,
Chris is directing movies. He's like,
flipped up the right side of the bench and edge.
Yeah.
Did the location scout not know there was a helicopter school, or just not care?
No, it was
because it was behind the hill. I think it was not clear that was going to be a huge
brutal.
problem.
That is.
How hard is it to ADR really long scenes like that? Where you're doing like full like conversations.
I mean, once you get over the full like heartbreak of having to do the entire thing over again, because there is that moment where you walk in and they're like, we have to do this whole scene, and you're like,
yeah.
I didn't know that you guys had to do every scene. That's impressive, you guys.
Yeah.
You have no idea, because like to keep the quality and the heart of a scene.
That's unbelievable.
Is its own task. It's Herculean.
I feel like. Go ahead, Lindy.
No, I was just saying, we did that. That's my memory of those fields was all that.
I feel like helicopter school was reported, and people thought it was a joke. So the location scout was like, "Well, it's all good, but there's a helicopter school."
Jerry,
like, that's a good one, Jerry.
Yeah, good one.
Book it.
It'll be fine.
It'll be fine.
Yeah.
My feels is something that I didn't catch the first time, and now I saw it and I love it. So Treat is, I think it's on the bench, and he points up. He's talking to Lindy and points up at the tree and says, "I hung mistletoe from that tree there." at the end of the movie when we turn on the lights, the camera pulls back and you see mistletoe hanging from the tree above you guys. And I was like, that's the mistletoe. I freaked out. I loved it. And this is why you should watch these movies multiple times. You might miss something like that. Little gold nuggets like that give you those feels. Dan?
We never had Treat Williams on the show, unfortunately. And anytime I watched him, whether it was on this network or another or in a film, in the Christmas House, he has this ability to give some of the best monologues you'll see on Hallmark Channel anywhere in general. But when he's talking about, meeting Ruth for the first time, that whole scene I thought was tremendous. Just a phenomenal scene, and he crushes it. And I thought that was like one of my favorite scenes the first time I watched it, and then now, considering the context, it was even more moving the second time I watched it. So that was really, really special.
Love it. Let's take one more quick break. We'll come back with the Wait, What, and the What the Hallmark here on
Deck
the Hallmark. Good, guys. Hey. That's good. Welcome back, everybody. We're talking about Rocky Mountain Christmas for a second time, 5 years later. Let's get to the Wait What's, see if anything stuck out to us. Brian, we'll start with you.
Sure. Sarah's friend talked her into running the parade in a record amount of time. It was like, I'm not doing the parade. Yeah, but okay, fine. Don't make me dance.
Well, the parade say you gotta love that. Yeah.
So
it's a parade.
Immediately,
no way I'm gonna. Okay, I'll do it.
I looked down for a second,
for sure.
and I looked back up, and she was doing the parade.
That's right.
That was record timing. The snow is so sparse, and so obviously the temperature wasn't quite.
Guys, can we talk about the snow?
About this because it's the worst fake snow I may have ever seen. It looks.
What's
like
going
cotton.
on there? Did the helicopter? Did it make the snow fly away?
A lot.
There was I think the biggest problem with this movie for me is that we tried to fix the weather. I've never really experienced such earnest trying to fix the weather on a movie before. So we're constantly adding dialogue about the weather.
Yeah.
Because I think initially there had been snow at the beginning of November at this location. Then it all melted and it was 1,000 degrees out. So when we started, it was like, hey, sis, welcome home. It's going to be beautiful weather for Christmas this year.
Yeah.
And then there was fake snow added on top of the beautiful weather. And then there was, did anyone hear that thunder? Storms are coming. And so we're constantly trying to keep up with the snow because we'd already shot the amazing parade situation.
So you get there and you're like, we have to shoot the parade on the day that it's raining. Like
was that the last day?
Was it the last day? Like why? Is there no other day, no other time?
Outside.
Because we had rented basically that entire city.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was November 13th. I have the picture here. It was November
Chris has got going back to his receipts. He's got it.
Yeah, I got the receipts. And so you've rented the horses, you've rented the city, you've shut the streets down, you've got the cops, you've got the permits, you've got the extras, you got all the uniforms and clothes that people are going to wear. It's done. Like you've bought the day. And when rain comes, I guess in bigger productions, there's something called a rainy day schedule, and you could push certain things. But that takes time and money, which I don't think they were willing to spend on this one. So it was like, yeah, let's just shoot it.
So the line that gets said.
And I think they were told, like, you won't see it. But of course the horses are like slipping.
Oh boy.
And it was like, there was just rain on our hats, like dripping down our back. Like, we were soaking wet. Like it was not romantic at all. It was, we were thoroughly drenched in water.
I will say, I can't remember the last time I was more taken out of a movie than the thunder line. Did you hear that?
Did you hear that thunder?
Was just like a
So that was shot, I'm guessing, after the parade, because you're like, we got to mention that there's going to be rain.
Yeah.
It's like, we get it. Like, there's rain. Like, it is what it is. It rained.
Did you hear that thunder?
It rained on your parade. Like, you don't have to do a full bit.
Whoa, that's where that comes from.
Yeah, believe it or not.
Yeah.
So, what extra work goes into filming a prolonged exterior shot while it's raining? Is there like a ton of extra time that goes into that, I imagine?
No, I mean, you have to cover the cameras. I think that's the only extra amount of work you got to create,
Yeah, I mean, for this, it was impossible to do anything. Like, if you have like a 2-person talking scene, you can sort of like build a little like tented thing over them, and that happens a lot. But this was, as you said, the entire city block, and there was just no hiding it. There was no way to shoot this and pretend that it was not raining, because it was a torrential downpour and it was not stopping all night.
That's brutal.
Yeah. And while we were waiting, do you remember the trainers of the horses were like, yeah, they get real spooked by umbrellas, so we not hold the umbrellas? So we were literally just sitting on our horses without umbrellas, and then they were like, just don't let them run because their hoofs will slip and you can take the horse down. I mean, it was like just walk slow and be as wet as you can.
But at least you had that bolo tie, and I think that made everything.
It's a good thing the parade was only 3 minutes long, in all honesty.
Yeah. It looked really good, though. The shot, when it was the big shot, wide shot of it, all lit up, and the horses, that car.
Looked as good as you can get.
Yeah, exactly.
A rainy parade.
Like, it looked really great. It's a shame that it wasn't nicer weather and you could get a longer shot of it. Yeah. But there were scenes too where you could see the breath. Like, it felt cold at points too. So that
was confusing.
It was a confusing weather set.
But
because one day there was also a total whiteout blizzard.
Of course.
Yeah, it snowed. It was the first day it snowed, right?
And we were shooting. This is one of my other favorite mentions about this movie, is that we're about to shoot this scene. We're driving in the truck. It's a very large truck. I am not a very good driver. I'll just say it. And it's a whiteout blizzard, and we're going to do this driving scene down this windy road, and this man comes and sticks his head in as they're calling action and goes, "Hey, Lindy, you know how to drive a dually, right?"
Oh, boy.
And I go, "I don't know what that is."
Oh, no.
And he goes, you just take a wide turn. And I was like, okay. He's like, if you have to turn, our first turn is we go out and we go onto a narrow bridge that is about the size of my truck.
Oh, boy.
And there I go, Lindy driving a dually.
There it is.
In a whiteout blizzard.
Wow.
Man.
But then, like, the last scene, like the with the kiss and the trees and the lights, that snow looked better. Like, I don't know what it was about. I don't know. It was the cotton on the ground.
The cotton was by the bench was real tough.
Yeah, tough.
That was like, why are we doing this?
Do you remember how long that was? It never before or after has a Hallmark kiss lasted as long. Like, we just kissed and kissed and kissed and kissed, and we were like, at a certain point, do we just keep on, or do we, like, should we move it forward a little bit? Like, you wouldn't realize.
Nobody called cut.
Like,
I mean, and we were like talking because we were like, do you think they could still see us? Is the camera still on us? Is it on the mistletoe now? Is the camera still on? And like, no one was saying anything. Everyone was like at the edge of the cliff. And there we are.
Yeah. And I mean, honestly, I thought it was Mike Larkin, just like, nah. Yeah. Let me just don't call cut. Like, tease him. And remember, what was his name? Our guy, like, Lindy. Hey, Lindy. I need you to do this again, but
who's that guy? Who's that guy?
Maybe
was Pepe Le Pew on the set?
It was Pepe Le Pew. Our director, Tibor. Was a character.
Is he chain smoking on set?
He did.
Yes.
Fantastic.
Lindy.
2017 was a different time.
What would the wreath maker do with wreath if I don't know, add flowers?
Oh, I love that guy.
And my favorite was, you guys love your Chris McNally. He came up and he was like, Lindy, look at your brother, like, oh, look how you grew up.
Like, what?
Yeah, Lindy was like, well, like, I want to kiss my brother, and he's like,
I was like, what? No. And he was like, you're like, oh, it's been so long, and you're a man now. And I was like, I don't think that's the right look.
A cultural difference there.
What a mess.
Maybe just grab like Pat's chest.
I got to be honest. Them telling you to look at Chris McNally like he's attractive and your brother, making you drive something almost off a cliff, not calling cut kiss. This is a 5-star movie. I was wrong. Like, the fact that it actually made air at this point, that's fantastic.
Miracles happen. Anytime you can make a movie, it's a miracle. And double down on this one because
maybe
we should have died.
Maybe ask him to take his shirt off.
Who knows?
Let's just see what you look like.
Make love.
Chris, any wait what's for you as you watch this movie? Any wait what's?
Oh, wait, what?
Exactly.
Just kidding, guys. I'm
funny,
kidding.
guys.
Good stuff.
I'm funny. You know, the wait what that I got in this last viewing, I really had an issue with Sarah's mom being an actor. Like, I think him being an actor was enough. He's already a fish out of water. I think it undermined his arrogance and his sort of assumption that everybody, and watching it again, I realized how sort of green I was in this genre and was like, oh, I could have taken that in a whole, like, I could have gone 10 yards further down and made him a lot more, you know, less presumptuous and more arrogant and done it in a better way. And the mom thing, when all of a sudden she's talking about her mom, and I get that, but to make it that personal was a little like, wait, what?
Yeah. Because it's 3 actors, because she gets dumped for
right. She gets dumped.
A guy that's now dating an actor.
Yeah, and that caught me too.
And then you're an actor, and then her mom was an actor who basically just left her with the uncle. That's a lot.
All right, and the brother wants to be a stunt guy, and he wants to go to Hollywood, and he gets with an actress.
Yeah.
Yeah. For a lady,
it's a lot of Hollywood infringing on this ranch.
That's tough. Yeah. That's tough. That's tough.
That was a wait what for me. I would have, had I had a chance to, you know, scribble some stuff into that script, I would have stripped all
While
that.
we were watching this, we noticed that this is, I think, the last Chris Polaha Christmas movie where you're not doing like a thing, like you're not doing a voice, you're not doing like now that you've done this for a while, you're like, let me see how far I can take this.
That's right.
Where like, and that's what you would have done now if you were shooting this now. You would have been like,
how can I wrinkle the page here?
Yeah.
You know.
Look at you guys using.
That's right. I'm here to help.
Hey, Lindy and I on this movie discovered a yearning to make a 1940s like full on, because she does an incredible listen
like transatlantic accent.
Friday.
Oh, yes. Let's hear it, Lindy.
I don't know that it's as incredible as you remember.
Yeah, the trophy's on its way. It says best transatlantic.
Best EKP transatlantic accent.
Yeah. What about you, Lindy? Anything stick out that made you go, wait, what, while you were watching this?
I mean, I don't know if anyone noticed, but I wore heels through most of this movie.
She'd get an award for that.
No kidding.
Is that a note?
Yeah, I really did.
Is that like, hey, put on heels, or is that a personal choice?
What are you doing? Yeah. You're not a rancher. You're a designer, but your character is back on the ranch. Why would they be in heels?
So the problem is that Kristoffer Polaha is tall, very tall.
Right.
And I'm not that short, but I am significantly shorter than him. And so my options, I knew at that point, were going to be, I either stand on an apple box every time we have a scene together, which I don't love doing because it gives me not a lot of freedom to move, or wear heels in the mud, which also proved challenging, but I was up for that. It was my choice. But when I look at it, I'm like, look at that girl just wandering around a farm in heels.
Yeah, that's tough.
I mean, they were the Timberland ones with they had a good tread, but I'm not sure they were horseback riding shoes.
Yeah, horseback riding heels.
Heels.
Yeah,
I
don't think so.
My biggest one in watching this time was there's a scene, Lindy, where you walk around town putting battery-powered candles in lanterns, and all I could think is this could not be less efficient as far as how to light up a town with candles, because you could put the little timer on it, but it's the daytime currently, so even if you did the timer, you'd have to go back on and turn it off and turn it on once it started getting dark, so it does it every 24 hours. Just an inefficient way to do that. Then you go around with there's a column that's already wrapped up, and then you just kind of are going around it with another ribbon going over top of the red.
It's already red.
It was already red. It was already red.
This is when it gets personal. This is when you're like, wait, guys.
Yeah.
No, these are the things that you're just told to do, and you
That's
go.
Tough. That's tough. Okay. So put the red ribbon over the red. All right, got it. Say action. I got this. I can do this.
But I want to say, I'll say this in defense of every actor who will ever make one of these movies, is you're standing on set and you've got 150 people who would rather be eating lunch, and you've got like this shot, and they're like, we got to get this shot. And as an actor, you're like, but that thing's already wrapped. And they're like, I know, just wrap it again, just wrap the thing again. And there's all this weird manic energy. And as an actor, you're like, this makes zero sense. And then finally, there's moments where either you have a choice, which is to have an outburst and say, I won't do it. I refuse to wrap the ribbon around the thing. And then people are like, man, what an asshole. Yeah. Why didn't he just wrap the ribbon? Or you go, you know what? Fine, let's just do this thing. And then 5 years later, you get made fun of on a podcast for it.
And I convinced myself, because I remember that moment, because I saw that scene today and I was like, oh God, there I was. And I remember being like, the things have already been wrapped, but I'm a big city designer and I've come into this town and I'm going to wrap them better.
You justified it.
So that's I actually were being like.
You justified it.
Yeah, you have to justify, I have to justify things. It'd look better with more red ribbon.
Yeah,
of course it did, because I'm a professional designer.
To Hallmark's credit, I feel like the filmmaking is just continuing to get better. There's less rewrapping the columns.
There is.
I feel like there's thought that is being given to it now that maybe wasn't given
ahead of its time.
Hey,
pioneers.
No, this would not be
the opposite. But you know what I mean.
But it's a lot more. It seems like it's a lot more collaborative now, where you could say, "Hey, maybe I shouldn't rewrap the column." Where in 2017, it's like you got to rewrap the column.
ABC,
would you rewrap the column?
Hey, Lindy, pretend column is your brother. Make love to it. Wrap it again.
Oh, boy. Dan?
I have a few, if you'll bear me the time.
Oh, we're out of time. What do you know?
I think I did say this the first time, but I have to mention it again because I thought when I watched the scene again, clearly I exaggerated. The first scene of this movie is our lead Sarah in the outdoor area, or that is it like the lobby, I guess, and it's
called a lobby.
And her and her friend are there, and her friend's like blah blah blah, and then she's facing toward the camera, and her friend comes back up and goes, "Hey, just an alert, Big Boss Man Jeffries is at your 12 o'clock, and he's coming your way." You don't know how the clock works.
She says is at 12 o'clock
but
from
12
o'clock.
But she does, yeah, even anytime you tell somebody 12 o'clock, you're doing it for their benefit. So they can go 12, 1, 2, and she's looking this way. And Big Boss Man's coming from her 6 o'clock. She doesn't have a chance.
There's some deductive reasoning, though, because if I'm looking at my 12 and you say 12.
No one has ever said, hey, such and such, 12 o'clock, because that's right in front of your face.
It was a different time zone. She's talking a different time zone.
You would see if you always say 3 or 9 or 6. You're not like, hey, camera, 12 o'clock. Yeah, we all get it. It's right in front of me. I understand where that is. So I couldn't believe that. I couldn't believe that happened. In this movie, Sarah starts to give Graham the rules of ranch life. And the rules of ranch life, as I've written them, are, and if you have any more, because she stops after two rules, but they are the biggies. Number 1, we don't eat till the horses do. Number 2, the boss makes the rules. That's it. That's all we got.
Well, the nice thing with number 2 is that can be that's the rest of them.
That's the rest of them.
It covers all of the rest.
That's exactly right. You don't need any more rules.
What's weird is that they don't mention wreaths in any of the rules of ranch life, which that is predominantly what ranchers do based upon this movie. There's a lot of wreath making in the film.
It's inherent in being a rancher,
which I love.
Did we go on the Hallmark talk show thing and make wreaths, or was that just something that they thought we were going to do?
Did we do Home and Family?
Oh, please tell me there's a video of that somewhere.
Surely.
Because I do remember this conversation where they're like, you need to learn how to make them because you guys are going to go on Home and Family and make them. And I'm not sure that we ever did, but I know that was like a threat that was coming, that we were going to have to recreate these.
Throughout the movie.
Or they did them.
Throughout the movie, they're just bringing out more wreaths. It's like we go in and
it was a lot of wreaths. We were shocked by the amount of wreaths.
Like you're
Balsam Hill, on the other hand, would be a great.
You never make something like their handmade wreaths. I can tell you that right
now. No, and 50 up to 50%. Then the podcast,
it's unbelievable.
Forget about it. It's amazing.
Yeah. I
handmade by Chris Polaha, I believe.
And Lindy Booth.
It's amazing. Everyone that comes in.
I'm definitely
there was.
Go ahead.
No, there was weird talk of her having to get it just right. they wanted to recreate the wreath or something.
What?
I think they wanted to recreate the wreath that we made in the movie to sell, or there was something going on.
I think they remade them on Home and Family, and you could buy them or something. There was a thing about the wreaths being perfect.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Well, the proceeds went to the ranch.
They did. Listen, they rode a horse twice. They made dozens of wreaths. They did get the point across that the wreaths were important. I didn't catch this the first time, but Graham's character does say two things that I found interesting. One, I thought this town would be too small to have a bell-ringing Santa Claus. Is there a limit on that? I'm pretty sure if you've got a traffic light, you can have a bell-ringing Santa Claus. I'm pretty sure that's
Salvation Army. Any town with Salvation Army.
Yeah, I think that's fairly standard practice across the board. And then he promises the town, this is all I've got, because we're going to save the same horse twice for what the Hallmark where it belongs. Because I've got to unpack that entire phrase.
Again.
We don't have a choice. We're here. Yeah. We're family. He promises the town that it's going to be the biggest parade they've ever seen. So I want to know the sizes of all the other parades because this has, I think, 5 horses, a vintage car, a fire truck, a float, and a marching band, and that's the whole thing, one block. Yeah. So were the other parades like
well, really? in his defense, he said that before you heard the thunder. Did you hear that thunder? That's so they had to cut out some stuff.
That's true.
Still send the marching band out, though. The instruments will be fine. They're fine. They're rainproof. Let's get to what the Hallmark is, where we wonder what could have been, maybe happened, that would give any clarity to questions that we still have. Brian, any questions that you're dying to get answered? We might get answers.
I know. I'm hoping we will.
Yeah.
There was one point where Graham offered to call his business manager, and he was going to get on the phone, and it was either to buy the ranch or invest in the ranch. We don't know because Sarah cut him off and said, no, it's not necessary, and we didn't get any more info on that. So what was he going to ask his business manager to do? Was he going to invest? Was he going to buy? What was going to buy all the wreaths?
Chris, what do you think? What was your plan?
Do you know that Lindy and I talked about this, and we talked about, like, do you remember having these conversations about, like, what happens next, and what if we did a sequel? And I think that because I think he would have been like, I can buy the ranch, like I can buy it, or I'll loan you the money, or like I'll take the pressure off of you, because the guy was, he had enough money, he could have done that. But I think that they get married. That was what we sort of talked about, that they get married, and then he becomes this really kind of cool, grounded actor that, like, they don't live in Hollywood, they live on this ranch in Colorado, and then
basically Treat Williams.
Yeah.
Basically, Treat Williams was like, and they do their thing, and they lived happily ever after. Like, it was not improbable for these two to actually have
after the numbers life. Was there talk of a sequel after the numbers came out?
No, because Bill Abbott hated horses apparently, and was like, "Why are there horses on my network?" Yeah, there was a big thing about the fact that we had horses. We had already shot horses, and the dailies came in, and we were still filming it. They were like, "We can't do any more of the horses."
Wow!
I need more wreaths and less horses.
You knew this is a ranch movie, right?
But then it was like, it's not a horse. It shouldn't be about horses. It should be about the love story. And then the movie did really well. And the next movie I did for Hallmark was Under the Autumn Moon.
Yeah, with Wes Brown, and also had horses, right?
But just because there's horses doesn't make it about horses.
No kidding.
The first day that you shoot, though, really tells a story.
Man.
I love that he's watching dailies on a movie called Rocky Mountain Christmas about ranching, and he's like, wait a minute, I didn't know horses were going to be involved. Had no idea.
Wait, but the original title is not Rocky Mountain Christmas.
Ooh, what is it?
Do you know what it is?
No, I forgot. What is it?
I know it because it popped up when you texted me. It was like Kristoffer Polaha, Unbridled Love.
Oh. Unbridled Love. It's even in there's even a horse pun in there.
It's all about horses.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
The frick's that horse doing there? No one told me.
That little trip around the ring was supposed to be out. Like, we were supposed to go out into the woods on horses, and there was supposed to be a whole.
Yeah, they did.
Then my horse took off too.
Where she's like teaches you how to get on the horse. You both get on the horse, and then like they ride like maybe 2 seconds, and it pans out, and that's it.
Wow.
Well, that was our horse. The horse trainer people were like, you can't let them go out of the pen. You can't let them go out of the pen. And then remember what happened? They were finally like, okay, fine, let them go they can go out of the pen for like a minute. And we went out of the pen, and my horse bolted with me on it. And I just remember looking back at Chris and just being like, oh.
You had quite an experience on this film, Lindy.
I did.
They tried to kill Lindy Booth.
They did.
Several times.
Yeah.
Multiple
Lots
times.
of different ways.
Put her in the dually. That will do it.
Bill Abbott heard a horse ran away and was like, yes. One less horse. Chris, I don't know why you would have any questions after watching this, but did anything stick out as like something you're wondering about? No. Lindy, I imagine the same is true for you.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I wonder is why we didn't get our Happily Ever After sequel, which we were totally pitching while we were making the movie.
Yeah, we were. We pitched the whole thing.
But
we had a whole story.
After the numbers come out, and
listen.
it's still, guys.
It's a no-brainer.
Hallmark, you listen out there?
Hey,
Warren Lucas,
guys.
you listen? It's 6 years old. It's still, you've released, 1,000 movies on the network since then. It's still the #1 Hallmark Movies and Mysteries movie of all time. You're telling me people wouldn't line up for a Rocky Mountain Christmas sequel? Unbridled Love 2?
With more horses?
Yeah, that's right.
Here's my question, and this goes to you, Chris. There is a scene where you're wearing $800 boots.
Are those your boots?
One, are those your boots? I do feel like I've seen you wear a similar boot before. I don't think I've seen you wear the bolo tie, although I'm not opposed to it. Are those your boots? And if so, were they $800?
They were not my boots. Those were, everything on that show was a prop.
Okay.
And I don't think they would have paid $800 for boots.
No way.
No, not for that.
There's
Not for that.
absolutely no way.
No.
There's absolutely no way. But even if you had a pair of Fry, I mean, you're not $800 boots. You're gonna know they're $800. They're gonna be.
It'll be good stuff.
I can't stop thinking about the sequel. Listen, he goes off and he tries to act. They try to do this long distance thing. They realize it's not working. They're on the brink of breaking up, and then they finally realize they're better if he just stays there on the ranch and then just takes jobs occasionally. And they take the family a Rocky Mountain wedding.
Ooh.
Married at the
Wasn't
ranch.
that what we called
That's
it?
exactly
Come
what
on.
That was what we called it. It was Rocky Mountain's wedding. And the thing is this, he goes off and he was like, he wanted to be a real serious actor and he got his dream. But the question became then, well, do you want to keep doing your dream, or do you want to have the girl, and do you want to have the life, and do you want to be a real person, or is this like, and it was the question that I think if you look at Hollywood, there's a lot of, I think any actor, you've got to ask that question of how much am I willing to give, and what is the, you know what I mean? Like, and as somebody who early on got married and had kids, I do look at my life and go, well, what if I was single? Would my career have done other things? And would I have been able to? And so I think it would have asked some very interesting questions about this business in particular, and then about love and about, betting on yourself, which we talked the whole thing about it.
We talked about doing like the reverse Hallmark, which is basically like the girl's gone back and done the like Hallmark life, which is living in the small town with the guy of the dreams. And then she misses the big city life too. And what has she given up, and what does that affect on her?
Yeah, you gotta take it back.
I love all of this. This is a good
Let's
pitch
do this,
meeting, guys.
Let's do this. This is all I'm saying.
Cut to Lindy and I are like, hey, you want to pitch it?
You really should try. I mean, that is great.
Sounds great.
Dan?
Get Mike on the phone, Mike Larkin.
Yeah.
We'll get
Tibor, see what Tibor is
Yeah,
up
see what he's
to.
up to.
Yeah.
Get your brother back.
Chris McNally. I mean,
Come on.
Lindy, maybe you marry your brother. Maybe do something
Chris
like that.
Polaha goes away.
It's a great idea.
We talked. I have two. I have a question for Chris, but before we do that, we have to mention this again. Treat gives a line in this movie, and he says, "You're not the first guy to try to sell me the same horse twice."
I love that line.
And I was doing gymnastics trying to work through that one. So there's multiple guys.
Trying to sell the horse.
There's more than one guy who's trying to sell one horse multiple times.
Yeah.
So it's like if there,
Would it have been better if I have a question. Would it have been better if he'd said the same wreath twice?
oh, now it makes sense.
Because there's clearly a multitude of wreaths.
Well,
Right.
if he would have said, "Hey, I know when somebody's trying to sell me the same horse twice," that's a saying. That's a saying of being like, I've already bought this. I'm not buying it again. But he says, you're not the first. In this world, it's like if all three of us, there's one horse in the room, and all three of us are trying to sell that horse multiple times all to the same guy. That's the way that.
So it's an issue of syntax.
Yes.
What is the sentence exactly?
You're not the first guy to try to sell me the same horse twice.
But also,
No, you're right, it's wrong.
the line the first time viewing it stuck out. And I was like, that line is wild. But in the scene that he's saying it about is also wild because you set up the Christmas tree. And that's his response. Was just such an interesting response.
It doesn't. That's the other thing is the saying doesn't apply to what happened there. Like you're not trying to sell him anything. You literally like, hey buddy, Unc, it's my fault. Don't blame these guys. I thought the tree would look great in your living room. You're not trying to sell.
But then he does try to sell a horse at all. He does try to sell him, I guess, on joining them to decorate. And that's when he was like, do you want to join us? And he's like, you're not the
first guy to try to sell me this.
But was Lindy's character the first person to try to sell the same horse?
I don't know. Who knows? A lot of guys have done it.
There's lots of horses. There's lots.
Yeah, that's one of those lines. And I wonder if that was improv. Did he just come
I love it.
I love it.
It's one of my we quote that line all the time. Just around the office.
We do regularly. I do have a question for Chris. Chris, you played Graham in this movie. You played a character, I believe his name was Jake Dorsey in A Dickens of a Holiday. Both actors. Who right now in 2023 is the better actor?
That's a good
who
question.
are you going to see a movie first, Graham or Jake?
Interesting. That's a fun little question.
Because Jake learned something massive in that movie and has a breakthrough.
He learned something incredibly massive. Jake is the bigger movie star. So Jake is in the movies that you're going to go see because it's the tentpole film. Graham was the indie actor who was trying to like win the Oscar and does Graham even have a career? I think Graham got married to Sarah and makes his occasional film that we love. But watch for Graham because he's kind of like the American version of Daniel Day-Lewis. He's gonna. You think he's retired, but in about 5 more years, he's gonna come out with a movie that's gonna blow us all away. Very Terrence Malick Tree of Life that Jake will never be able to touch, and Jake will be sitting on his toilet going, "I wish I could be like Graham." Make a really important
with
movie.
all his money, with all of Jake's money everywhere.
Did you have
franchise roller coaster ride at Universal?
Did you have a comp for those two? Like someone that you were thinking like this is compares like for those two characters? An actor.
We talked about this with Graham.
Yeah.
We talked about the comps there. We all gave an opinion.
Yeah, it was Jake Gyllenhaal was the one that Mike Larkin was like, he's kind of like Jake Gyllenhaal. You should kind of think of him as like Jake. And then with and which is it was like Heath Ledger or Jake or any young earnest actor that wants great big things. And then for Jake, it was a combination of the two Polynesians, Jason Momoa and The Rock. Like he was just as outlandish and big and you know what I mean, like fun. Just a big fun guy.
I love that. I love it. This has been so much fun. I honestly can't wait for the 5 of us.
Sorry you had to sit through that, Lindy. Lindy's like, what are we talking about?
I can't wait for the 5 of us to get together in another 5 years and do this all over
I mean,
again.
come on.
This is a weird 5-year tradition that we have going on, I guess. It's a very specific. Next, in 5 years, we're actually going to be reviewing this episode, which is
crazy. You guys can come back. We'll all watch it first.
It's going to be crazy.
Can we actually do that? Can we really do that?
Sure, Chris. For you, of course we can.
Yeah, we can. Lindy, thank you so much for joining us on the program. This was a delight.
Thanks for having me.
I don't think we've ever had someone join us
for the first
time in this way to
hear me make fun of their movie. That's not fair to anyone.
Is there anything you want to make like just looking at Dan? You want to make fun of him at all?
Please do.
There's a lot. There's a lot of material
here.
He's freakishly tall.
I'm taller than Chris. Yeah, it's wild.
Oh God, I'd have to wear my heels around.
Right. Yep.
Oh boy!
And we're missing Panda, who you were his favorite. So
that's true.
We've done a lot of interviews. Who's your favorite Hallmark actor, actress, and he always says, I got to go with Lindy Booth. So that is so.
Did he say that on Good Morning America?
He might have.
He might have.
He might have. If not, it was on like
maybe Windy
on
City Live or
the
something.
Chicago Windy City Live one or something. He said your name on some sort of television show somewhere.
You're beloved. You're beloved. Thank you both for joining us. Thank you to everybody for tuning back in for a rewatch of a movie we've already done 5 years ago. This is a lot of fun. We'll do it again next Friday, Christmas at Pemberley Manor, which was the first new Christmas movie that we reviewed in 2018. And we also might be having a special guest for that. It's going to be a lot of fun. Until then, may we be the first to wish you a Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Deck the Hallmark is a Bramble Jam podcast. It's produced by Aaron Shea. For more information on Deck the Hallmark, you can go to deckthehallmark.com. For more information on the Deck the Hallmark family, you can go to bramblejamplus.com. Deck the Hallmark is presented by Philo TV. For a free trial of Philo, go to philo.tv/DTH.
Hi, everyone. Rick Dilby here. We have a lot of fun here at Deck the Hallmark. And you may have been wondering, where was Wrigley Dilby during all the horse talk, specifically with one Lindy Booth? While I desperately wanted to be involved, all of my team members said, in your contract, we get one out. We get one no-rig horse jokes, and they did use that card here. It's unfortunate for all of us. I wish it didn't happen. I apologize. I'll return to my post sooner rather than later. I wish you the best. Merry Christmas, my pants.